But I know we have a lot of avid hunters here at Pathway, and some are more experienced. And I'm not going to use their last names because I might embarrass them. And two that I'm thinking of is Roger and Tim. And now we have a couple less experienced hunters here, but I know they're still gung-ho. And one's Greg and one's Mark. And so I know Roger and Tim are avid hunters because they come to our group, our small group, and Mary and I have some woods behind our house, or actually it's our condo, and we have deer. Every year since we moved in, we have deer come. It's usually, now Mary and I will call it a mother deer and a baby deer. Sometimes we might even say Bambi, but it's every winter, every spring, the little deer is born and we see it grow, and about January, the deer is about 9 months old, it's getting bigger, about half the size of its mom, maybe a little bigger. And now a couple of times on small group nights, Roger and Tim, they look out the window and they see her, and this is exact words from Roger. I wish I brought my bow. It's an Excalibur Micro 335 Deluxe with a stealth silencing accessory. So I guess he didn't really want to make too much noise while he was killing Mama Deer. And Tim says, "Oh yeah, I wish I brought my Smith & Wesson J-frame centerfire revolver." And so I know they're avid hunters. And I know Mark and Greg are too. I've seen pictures of Greg on Facebook, all in camo and everything. He even had a bow, but I don't think it was anything like the one Roger has. But now when they go deer hunting in the fall, Roger and Tim, they're more experienced. So they probably bring 13, 14, maybe 15 bullets at the most. Now, Greg and Mark, they're less experienced, so they probably bring 20. But I'm going to tell you about my family. I grew up in a family of hunters, and it dates way back to Germany, and they hunted in the Black Forest, and they were trained to only bring 3 bullets. And so I grew up hunting with my grandfather and my father, and all they ever had was 3 bullets. And they always came back with something. So when I was 13, I was going to go hunting, but my dad and my grandfather said, "Well, you're getting old enough to go hunting on your own." So they gave me the rifle, and they gave me 3 bullets. And we had a place up north, and so I just started going out in the woods. And it wasn't too long. Got a little prop here. They gave me a little squirrel call for my 12-year-old for my 12th birthday. So I heard some squirrels. I finally got the bead on one, and going out your first time, you're kind of nervous. And so, like I said, I got the bead on one. I fired. Well, I didn't kill the squirrel, but I did shoot off its tail. So I picked up the tail. Later on, back then we didn't have cars or anything like that. I mean, at 13, I put the squirrel tail on my bike and rode around the neighborhood with a squirrel tail on the back, and that was pretty cool back in those days. And so far I got 1 bullet down, 2 bullets to go. And finally walked into a clearing, and I rustled up a pheasant. Now, most pheasants, when they fly, just kind of take off in a direct trajectory. Ooh, that's a big word. Trajectory like this. Well, I got my bead on the pheasant, but just as I shot, the pheasant kind of dumped down and flew back up. And so then I didn't get anything. I mean, I didn't even touch a feather on it. And so now I had 2 bullets gone and 1 bullet left, and I was getting a little nervous. And because I didn't want to come back without anything to show my dad. And so 1 bullet left. So I walked and I walked and walked. I walked through this field, and just on the outside of the field, out of the woods, came a 13-point buck, a big one. But just then, right next to it, comes this huge black bear standing up on its hind feet. Now, what do? You only have 1 bullet left, but being a Usadel, I was quick thinking. I took out my Jim Bowie knife. Only, it wasn't this one. Of course, it was a big, long one. And I had an idea. So I threw it, and it landed right in the middle of a tree. And so I took aim, and I shot, and that knife was so sharp, half the bullet split and killed the buck, and the other half of the bullet killed the bear. Now, that's not all. The bullet hit the knife at such a fast speed that it started spinning up in the air. And there was a flock of ducks flying over, and it killed 3 ducks. It dressed them, it plucked them and dressed them, and they just fell out of the sky. And so, now you probably are having a hard time believing this, but I did bring proof. Well, my head must have grew a little bit before, but this says Ducks Unlimited. The Duck Unlimited group gave me this hat as a little prize, but it says sponsor on it. So I was the youngest sponsor for the Ducks Unlimited group in the history probably of the world. And this says Buck Fever. And the Deer Association gave me this Buck Fever, but it's got a little award there, and I wore it proudly for many years. Boy, my head grew. This one says pheasant roost. I think I got this hat because I saved some pheasants. And now I did get a certificate from the Chicago Bear Association, but at the time, I never heard of any bears in Chicago, so I just kind of threw that one away. That's why I didn't bring that one. But that's why in November, when you see Greg and Mark and Tim and Roger and everybody else that goes out deer hunting, you're just going to see me humbly walking around just pretending, because I had my 15 minutes of fame. And so I really don't need to get excited about hunting anymore. So that's the story of my 3-bullet story.